The following podcast may contain adult language and an abundance of Stranger Things references, so get ready, nerds, because we're talking Stephen King's Firestarter.
How could it be a reference? This came first.
It's whatever. It's a reference.
A bunch of things referenced in Stranger Things?
Referenced in Stranger Things.
Yeah,
Inspiration?
Do it again.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Is it good? All right.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. We're talking Stephen King's Firestarter with Drew Barrymore. I'm joined, as always, by my fantastic panel of nerds. Matt Vader's here. What's up, dude? Look like you have a migraine.
You're going to give me $1 million.
I don't have $1 million to give you.
Okay, never mind.
Judah's also here.
I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't mean it.
Back off, man. Back off.
I'm sorry.
Hi.
Drew Barrymore was just not a great child actor. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I will come across this table.
I know you will.
Don't you besmirch the good name of Drew Barrymore.
I love her, but
So you want me to go kick his ass right now?
Yeah.
Tony? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
shut the fuck up, Tony.
Fuck you, man. What's
you.
wrong with you?
Matt Vader's, or not Matt Vader. Matt the Kadish is also here. Welcome, sir.
I am. So I'd gone through about 42 years of my life without seeing this movie.
Really?
I had avoided it, but this was a first watch for me, and I was surprised at how much I actually enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. I am too. I've never seen this movie. First watch for me as well. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Had a great time. And I think has a lot to do with my enjoyment of Stranger Things. There's so many things that they took from this movie and put it in Stranger Things.
I will tell you, this is one of the movies that shaped me. This came out in '84. There is no reason why I should have seen this movie at the age that I did.
How old
It's
were you?
rated R.
It's not that violent, though.
No, but I was probably very too young to have watched this movie. And I remember being at like my third or fourth grade field day and trying to do that thing, like grabbing my head and trying to set the other kids on fire. I wanted this power.
She still wants this power.
Who wouldn't want this?
That'd be a dope power.
I know.
100%.
Yeah, but we should probably point out that this is part of our Stephen King week, where we're reviewing Stephen King movies. We just did Silver Bullet, the Stephen King werewolf movie. And now we're doing
Firestarter.
Because
Pyromancy.
Stephen King rules.
Well,
Does he?
does he though? Anyway, all right. So yeah, Firestarter. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed this movie, so I can't wait to talk about it. We're gonna get to it in just 1 second. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Real quick, if you guys want to support what we do here, head over to saltynerdclub.com, join the club membership. It's where you guys get access to all of our backlog content, completely raw, unedited, filter-free, no ads, whatever you want. We say it. It's there. It's behind a paywall, so we can't get in trouble for it. Haha. So head over to saltynerdclub.com, and we're talking classic sci-fi stuff for our Patreon episodes. You guys get 4 exclusive episodes every single month. We're doing things like Doctor Who, Stargate Atlantis, Farscape. We did Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I've got a good
Star
one.
Trek, the original
I've got
series.
a good one coming for you.
Ooh, okay. Well, save it.
Got a good one coming for you too, baby.
It's everything sexual around here. All right,
And it's
anyway.
very sexual today.
Super horny this week.
Join the
Man.
club and get horny with us.
I gotta go bust one out pretty soon. Gotta do it.
God damn it. All right.
No one knows where the line is.
I know.
There is no line.
Get out of my head.
Firestarter. Jude, take it away.
1984 Firestarter. Rated R with a runtime of 1 hour 54 minutes. This had a budget of $15 million. What do you think this
That's
brought
all
in?
pyrotechnics. 30 million. Double its budget.
All right.
I was gonna say that.
God damn, her mom's hot.
Well, it's Heather Locklear, dude.
Damn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
young Heather Locklear.
Heather be
Yes.
thy name.
Smoking. Holy hell.
Ooh, hello.
Hello.
Everybody had her on the wall back in the day.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Heather Locklear.
Yep, you said it correctly.
Heather Locklear and Heather Thomas. I had both of those on my wall.
Heather Thomas? You mean Leah Thomas?
Fall Guy.
Wait. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, what do you think this brought in the club?
So he stole my answer.
Double the budget?
Yeah.
30 million?
So I'm gonna.
You guys are gonna split the speed
No,
boat?
I'm gonna play the Price is Right, and I'm gonna undercut him. I'm gonna
Okay.
go 25.
Okay. Vader wins the speedboat. This only made $2 million more than its budget. This made $17 million.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
that's really surprising to me.
I know, I was surprised
this movie
too.
was all over back then.
Yeah.
I remember everybody talked
They're
about
making a new
Firestarter.
TV show out of this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know that Stephen King was necessarily like that big of a thing in '84. I feel like this and Silver Bullet, and like I think he was starting to like.
It was what brought him on the map, right?
No, it was actually Carrie was the
Yeah.
thing
Carrie?
that put him on the map.
And,
Well, that was like 10 years previous.
but,
to
Yeah.
this.
but Dino De Laurentiis like went on like an optioning like spree where he basically optioned every single Stephen King property he could get a hand on, and so like Hollywood was rushing to like produce Stephen King stuff.
Did he write the one Jack Nicholson movie?
Shining,
The
yeah,
Shining?
Didn't he hate that movie though?
he did.
He hated this movie too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Stephen King's kind of a dick, dude.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
Look at the people that he writes in his books.
But the
Yeah.
the 1980s and the early 90s were like prime Stephen King adaptation time period.
you couldn't get away from him. back then.
Yeah. All of his stuff was getting adapted into movies. It was absolutely crazy, and they were adapted at varying degrees of quality and success.
That is a
So-
fact. Yeah, and I think a lot of the times and it's true for most adaptations is like when you get into the directing a movie, you kind of change the story to make it less Coke fever dream. And that's true with a lot of Stephen King's adaptations. Like a lot of the time the stories are very different from the books.
Yeah, but I think this is a movie that actually found its success on home video at the time, because I know for a fact that like when this movie came out on network TV, I was too scared to watch it based off of the commercials. So,
Yeah, I'm sure that I saw this like on an HBO rerun. I 100% did not go see this in the theater.
What's funny about this movie is I do remember people being a little freaked out about this movie, but watching it now, and I watched it years and years ago, but I don't really remember watching it. There's nothing scary in this movie.
Not really.
It's not scary. The weirdest part about this movie is George C. Scott with his long hair.
playing a Native American.
It's very strange watching
Rainbird.
George C. Scott.
The oldest,
with
grumpiest,
long-ass
whitest guy on the planet playing a Native American.
Yeah, it's
we're
very
gonna,
strange.
We're going to talk about that.
The one thing that's different about this movie compared to a lot of other Stephen King movies is that there's no one that's like overtly religious. That's a bad guy.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, Jude, tell us what it's about.
All right. Drew Barrymore and her daddy, not Dennis Quaid, are on the run from members of The Shop, a secret government agency that wants to get their hands on the young offspring of two of The Shop's experiments. During college, Charlie's parents took part in a paid experiment that led to them getting some extrasensory abilities. Vicky can hands-free move minor things, and Andy can control people with his mind. Both adults' abilities come with side effects, which makes their powers unreliable. But their daughter Charlie was born with pyrokinetic powers that have only become stronger as she's grown. The Shop keeps tracking them down in hopes of snatching Charlie up. After The Shop murdered her hot mother, Heather Locklear, Andy blinds the attempted kidnappers and hitchhikes as far as he can with his daughter until The Shop calls in their best assassin. When Charlie and her dad wake up, they're in the clutches of, you guessed it, The Shop, an evil mastermind, Martin Sheen, and they've got plans for Charlie. Discuss.
I had no idea what to expect in this movie.
Okay.
Like I said before, I'm not the biggest Stephen King fan, so I haven't really watched a lot of his movies. And I watched this one, and it's so obvious that the Duffer Brothers, who make Stranger Things, like love this movie because there is so much ripped directly from this movie and brought to Stranger Things.
11's basically Charlie.
11's basically Charlie. Yeah, it's all there. And I was just watching it, and I'm like, oh, this is so freaking cool. Like, sweet. Like, I finally figured out like where they got these awesome ideas from. And it's this freaking movie.
Yeah.
And like, even from the
Imagine being our age and have already watched this and then
right,
watched
and you watch
Stranger
Stranger.
Things.
That's why the older generation's like, I don't give a shit about Stranger Things.
It's like
I've seen it already.
I watched the first season and I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, I'm over here like, this is freaking cool. So like,
It's like nothing you guys watch is new or original.
well, yeah, that's Hollywood's like creatively bankrupt, bro.
Yeah.
I would argue the Duffer Brothers do Stephen King better than Stephen
Oh,
King.
yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah, Stephen King, like, I read a lot of his books. I've read, I'm not going to say most because I haven't read everything, but I've read a lot of his books, especially the ones that were adapted into movies. And his books are fucking bananas.
Yeah, I mean, Stranger Things is basically it, but with like, you know, just like a different monster.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like Stephen King, you're reading a Stephen King book and you're just like, okay, here is what the story is. I'm on board. I'm following. What the fuck?
I think one of the more interesting aspects of Stephen King, especially like early in his career in the 80s, is that he came up with these like kind of very off the wall ideas that weren't mainstream at the time, like pyrokinesis. Like until Firestarter came out, that wasn't like really a thing. And it's because of Stephen King that we have all this stuff in pop culture that we kind of take for granted nowadays. But before Stephen King came along, like the stuff just like, it was either fringe or it wasn't very like well known, and he kind of brought it into the forefront, especially like with these movies, because like the idea of a little girl who can set stuff on fire with her mind, like that wasn't really a thing until this movie came out. You know?
And you guys know I'm like a sucker for like government conspiracy stuff. So I'm watching this movie, and immediately when we get to see the mother and father in this like government facility and they're doing this experimental drug and they're like, this is called lot 6 and we don't know, this is a double-blind placebo, and they like inject everybody with it and they all start tripping fucking balls.
Were you waiting for Patrick Stewart to show up?
Yeah, something. I don't know, dude.
Manchurian Candidate
for the Manchurian Candidate. No, what was that? That was the Mel Gibson movie, right?
That was Conspiracy
Theory. Like, I love that stuff. So like immediately I'm on board, and immediately I'm making ties to Stranger Things, where like even the character Papa, who's Eleven's dad, like I look at him and I'm like, oh, they got that idea from Martin Sheen in this movie.
No, actually it was John Rainbird.
Was it John?
Yeah.
Because he's got the giant hair. Martin Sheen's got that freaking 7-foot tall hairdo.
That was just his hair.
That was just his hair. But like,
but if you look at the relationship that George C. Scott's character makes with Drew Barrymore's character in this, like that's straight up like the Papa 11 relationship in Stranger Things.
Yeah. And the character of Rainbird is actually way more diabolical in the book than he is in this.
And it's funny, when we were watching this, you know, I see George C. Scott on screen, and I turn to Jude, I'm like, what's the deal with his ponytail? And she's like, well, he's playing a Native American. I'm like, he's Sean Connerying this like the Egyptian Spaniard with the Scottish accent.
That wasn't a joke.
No,
he plays John Rainbird, who is a Native American assassin.
Oh,
yeah.
And he's got like a milky eye and like a big long ponytail and a spray tan. And if you look at the trailer for the remake of Firestarter, they actually cast a Native American in that role.
Oh, good.
But I mean, like George C. Scott, the entire time I'm sitting there, I'm like, why does he have that weird ponytail?
Never once got Native American vibes from this dude.
No, I didn't either.
Not at all. I had no idea. I thought he was just a weird dude with a ponytail.
Yeah,
Ponytails were a thing back then.
I just kind of take it for granted because it is explained in the book.
Oh,
so I knew.
They never explained it in the movie, and I had no idea.
But you guys know I don't read.
Yeah,
so
no, you don't read.
I'm aware.
And it's funny because Dino De Laurentiis paid George C. Scott an extra $1 million over his normal salary in order to appear in this movie. And because of that expenditure, he had to cut cost elsewhere. And so like the entire crew of this movie were like Italians that he flew in because they were cheaper to use as their crew.
Jesus Christ.
Because he paid George C. Scott to play an Indian.
Wow. That's ridiculous. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really well done.
I'm so glad that you got some enjoyment out of this.
Yeah, no, I love the government conspiracy stuff. I love that they're on the run from this like weird like underground government facility called The Shop for whatever reason. And like Drew Barrymore, I understand she's super popular back in the day as a child actress. Like
she did this before E.T.
No. E.T. was 82.
Yeah.
No, like I believe that this
Google it.
This part that she was cast in, like she filmed this movie before she filmed
way
E.T.
younger.
Yeah,
she's
she's way younger.
No way. E.T. was her first film, and I think that she even did an interview talking about like she was so young that she thought E.T. was real.
Yeah,
This is on the precipice of her becoming a
child
star, drug queen, Hollywood overlord.
I know that Jennifer Connelly was originally set to be in this role, but somehow Drew Barrymore beat her out.
How old was Drew Barrymore when she went on her little crazy binge?
She was a late teens, wasn't she?
Because
Steven Spielberg.
Talk about someone who has had a terrible childhood. Like, I mean, we've talked about like the 80s, growing up in the 80s. Everyone's parent was shitty, but Drew Barrymore had a.
I mean, I don't know if Alex realizes Drew Barrymore was like the queen of the bad teens.
Really?
In the 80s.
Well, I mean, she was like 8 years old. And like you see like the Kardashians today, like Kris Jenner's always like partying with her adult daughters. like Drew Barrymore's mother was bringing her to clubs when she was like 8, 9, 10
Yeah.
years old, and
Yeah.
she was wasted. And, and then they forced her to go into it wasn't therapy. It was like forced, like a psychiatric,
like a conversion thing.
Well, like a psychiatric place where they like she wasn't in control of herself. She couldn't sign herself out. Like they made her, and they like tried to brainwash her. Like she had a rough fucking time of it.
Drew Barrymore had a crazy adolescence. Crazy.
Yeah.
So like what I know about Drew Barrymore is like E.T. Yeah, I knew she was a child actress. And then there's a giant blank spot. And then she pops up in Charlie's Angels.
That she grew up.
Oh God, you have a gap to
There's
fill.
a big gap.
That she grew up and became as loved and adored as she did on the back end of all her fucking craziness. Is a testament.
What makes
to her.
me
because
she's been very like transparent about like how her childhood was and how it led up to her being the adult that she is today.
I mean, we read all these tabloid things about, what's the oops, I did it again. Britney Spears stuff and all these other Lindsay Lohan. Yeah. Drew Barrymore did it all before they did.
Yeah, she did.
I had no idea.
And bigger and better.
Everything was better in the 80s, bro.
It was nuts. She was. So yeah,
and you know what's funny about this movie is because Drew Barrymore was so young, there were all these like child labor law things that they had to be aware of. Like you know, at the end of this movie, it all takes place at night, but because you can't have like children working at night, they had to replace her with like a fun-sized person to come in.
Oh, for real?
And
I knew there was one scene where there was like an explosion, and it was very obviously a doll with like a wig on.
And most of Drew Barrymore's stuff was shot on sound stages and then intercut with like the actual locations to make it look like she was actually there. But because of all the child labor laws, like there was literally stuff that they weren't allowed to do with her. And so like they had to figure out creative ways around it.
Seeing this movie and seeing her character and how all the similarities to Stranger Things, like immediately I was like, I wonder if they reached out to Drew Barrymore to be the mom in Stranger Things as opposed to Winona Ryder.
Oh wow.
Because like that would have
been really
all
cool.
All the direct things that they lifted from this movie to put in Stranger Things, like the bloody nose thing, the telekinesis, the government side project, all that shit. It's literally freaking Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I'm like, wouldn't it have been wild if they reached out to Drew Barrymore and she was the mom in that show?
I can totally picture that now.
100%.
I'm trying to think back and remember how Drew Barrymore made her comeback.
It was Charlie's Angels, wasn't it?
No,
it was before that. Was it before that?
No, it was The Wedding Singer.
Wedding Singer. Never Been
but
Kissed.
Before that, I think right before that, she did like some Playboy centerfold or something.
She
right?
did.
Because I used to have that issue.
She was in a movie with Chris O'Donnell where it was about like mental health, and that was really good. And I know she got a lot of press.
The only story I really know is something that Steven Spielberg said is that he sent her a blanket, like a homemade stitched blanket to Drew Barrymore and said cover up or whatever. And it was like his response to telling her.
He had it put onto her Playboy centerfold.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then sent her the magazine.
Wow.
I just, for some reason, I just have a lot of personal kind of respect.
I feel the same way
for Drew Barrymore
one
because
of my favorite actors.
She went through the childhood shit and she went through all the bullshit. And then she came out in the end, I'm much better.
She's got like a talk show today. She's like a normal person.
You know, she just Drew Barrymore is a lady, a woman that
she beat the odds basically.
I would like to hang out with her.
She started her own production company, which like she was one of the first like women in Hollywood to do that, and it was successful. And I think her first film with that was Never Been Kissed.
Yeah,
she married Tom Green.
Wow. That was a bit of a fluke, but yeah, I just I have a soft spot in my heart for her, and I'd like to hang out with her and meet her and go have a drink with her someday. But,
So did you enjoy this movie?
So this movie, I don't know what I felt about this movie. I don't know where to grade it. I don't know what to think about it. It's very dated to me. I look at this movie and I go, oh, well, this was clearly made in the early 80s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't like Stephen King just as a thing. I've never been a huge Stephen King
Stranger Things.
David Keith is a weirdo, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a weirdo, but it's David Keith, the guy that played the dad, not what'd you call
Not
him?
Dennis Quaid.
Not Dennis Quaid.
In my head, leading up to this whole week, I was like, Kadish, your boyfriend Dennis Quaid is in this. And then we started, I was like, fuck, that's not Dennis Quaid.
He really is a guy who is like every role that like Dennis Quaid passed on, this guy could get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very strange.
He was the 13th choice for this role.
Oh, bless.
Yeah.
And he's been in a ton of shit.
Yeah.
His IMDb is massive.
He was Daredevil's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of
Wait,
stuff.
which Daredevil?
The
Netflix.
Netflix Daredevil.
Oh, the good one?
Yeah.
Shit.
He was the boxer.
Yeah. Right on.
And I'm not saying he's a bad actor, but he's just like David Keith. You know, he's
Like sea level.
No, I don't know if he's a C level.
I mean,
They weren't making David
he's
Keith
one of those
posters
actors
back in the day.
He's one of those actors who's probably got 200 things in IMDb, and he's been in things that you don't realize he's been in.
Yeah.
So did you like the movie or not?
I liked it, but I was kind of whatever.
Over it?
It's an 80s movie.
Yeah.
Put it in that perspective.
You know, this movie came out when I was a teenager. I was probably more interested in doing other things. I don't know.
Why is it so hard for you to say yes or no?
I don't know, because I kind of liked it, but I didn't. I don't know where I'm at. It would depend on how.
This movie tickles every itch that I have for movies. Like it's got the government conspiracy stuff. I love Martin Sheen is like this evil politician dude who's like in charge of this whole thing, and he's like trying to weaponize these people. I love the old LSD trip stuff. Like half this shit I feel like is real. And that's what I love about this movie. And I'm like, yeah, that shit freaking probably happened.
Yeah.
And just the story of this father who's trying to protect his daughter and going along this way, and they're constantly being chased. Like everything about this movie is what I love about movies. So I had a blast. And the seeing what Stranger Things was referencing all this whole time, I had no idea. I was like, oh, I just thought they came up with these ideas themselves. Watching this, and I'm like, oh, that's so freaking cool. I feel like I watched like Stranger Things like year zero or whatever.
You know what I found weird about this movie, and this is it's absolutely a 2022 take on a 1984 or whatever movie. When George C. Scott is trying to basically groom her into liking him as John, the lovely
nice janitor
guy, and he's picking her up and hugging her and kissing her and stuff. I felt super cringy.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's weird.
Maybe that's the point though.
You know, it's just like
especially
I felt super uncomfortable.
Especially
with that.
considering that the character's whole reason for like creating that connection is so that he can
Kill
ultimately murder her,
Yeah.
and absorb her power.
Okay, can we talk some bullshit about?
But I kind of like felt that way in other movies we watched this week too, and I don't really know.
80s were a weird time.
80s, there was a lot of hugging and kissing on little
And
kids.
slapping.
Yeah, it was just like, but at the same time, I'm wondering, is that normal, or how we feel today normal?
I'll tell you, the 80s were not normal.
No.
But
Don't put your hands on people.
but they were perfectly normal back then.
It's kind of fucked up time.
That's not
Why?
necessarily
Why was
true.
it?
It was
You know what I mean?
normal to the adult who was doing things. It wasn't normal to the person they were doing it to.
You know, it was normal in the 1950s to expect your wife to have dinner made when you got home from work, and to you know.
Where are you going with this?
I don't know. It was just
Talking about progress, I think.
It was just people had a different sensibilities about
100%,
the world back then.
Yeah, people have
But it's
changed.
just what I'm saying is watching stuff from the 1980s, being a child of the 80s and being kind of creeped and cringed out by stuff I see on the screen from the 80s in 2022 is weird to me.
Yeah, I think the
Is that
moral of
weird?
that story is that you were lucky that shit didn't happen to you.
Right.
I mean,
That's
I don't
what
know.
I take out of that.
It's like in Silver Bullet when Gary Busey, it's like he kissed Corey Haim on the mouth and
Did he?
sent him to bed, I think, in one scene, didn't he?
I don't think he kissed him on the mouth.
Or
but
on
he
the
did
cheek
kiss
or
him.
whatever.
Yeah.
And it was weird. It was kind of weird. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's just, maybe that was just something people did back then.
I think it's different when you're supposed to be a family member.
Right.
Like George C. Scott in this was like a complete
He's a
like
janitor.
stranger. Like
Yeah.
he's an old man
Yeah.
who's like creeping on this like really young girl.
But it
And
was so
It
dark
was-
though,
it was
because he was
weird.
like, because Martin Sheen was like, what are you planning on doing? And he's like, well, I'm going to get close to her. I'm going to become friends with her. I'm going to karate chop her in the face until she dies.
And he's like,
what the fuck?
When you're finished with her, give her to me.
Yeah.
Ugh,
super creepy.
So creepy.
It's like if they made this movie now, which I guess they did 5 years ago.
Oh my God. We're never watching that fucking thing.
Wait, they already remade it?
Yeah, it was a remake.
Because they're making a TV show, right?
It just came out.
Yeah. How would they approach that? How would you?
They probably wouldn't do it. They would approach it as like he's just friends.
Well, they also made the little girl less of a kid. Like she acts more adult in the
because
in the remake.
She's very on board with
more
like murdering people.
More teenagery than
she's like,
adolescent.
I don't like killing people, but my power kind of feels good, and that's the exact opposite of Charlie in the book and in the
she hates
movie.
her power in this movie.
Yeah, she's a kid dealing with having this much power.
The one of the most traumatic scenes I can imagine for that child was when she got mad at her mom. And she burnt her mom's hands. Yeah, because she lit them on fire.
That's a big part in the book. And then like between that scene and where we meet them in the beginning of the movie, her mom's been murdered, and they've been on the run ever since. And it's been a year since then, and she's never had a chance to process it because they've constantly been on the run. Yeah,
it's a crazy bit. That scene was really dark. Yeah. Like because I can imagine, because I got young kids and stuff like that, and they get mad all the time for like random, like, go clean your room. Like that shit happens. I can imagine like a kid who has powers like this, and the way they talk about her when they're in the government facility, and they're like, her power right now goes this far, but we have no idea what the cap is. Like she could create a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, when they're talking about her hitting adolescence and when her pituitary gland is the strongest like organ in her whole body. Yeah. Like she could crack the earth in half.
That's so freaking cool. I was nerding out when they were talking about that shit. I'm like, I want to see that movie. Like,
so a little bit of insight between like what happens in the book and what happens in the movie is so they have this college experiment, and since then, so this was brought on by the shop. So they're a government agency. And ever since then, a lot of these people retained some level of powers. And the shop has been like killing off these people so that it doesn't get out that they were doing that. This is the only couple that hooked up from them. And the shop was like keeping tabs on them just to kind of see what would happen. And then they have this daughter, and they've been very like careful about like how much information they give about the daughter, because it's clear pretty early on when she's an infant that she has some powers. And one of them, I forget who, makes the mistake of saying something on the phone, and the shop has been listening in this whole time, so they know Charlie has powers, and that's when they go after him because they want Charlie. And like the mom, her powers were just kind of hit and miss. She could like change the channel on the TV, but it gave her a headache, and she didn't like to talk about powers, and she didn't want to use her powers. So she just kind of stopped, and they kind of went away a little bit. So when the shop comes to take Charlie, she can't do anything about it, and they just fucking kill her.
That's crazy.
Yeah. You guys want to hear a funny story about this movie?
Yes, we do.
Sure.
So it's well known that Stephen King is like always very critical of movies that have been adapted from his books, with very few exceptions. But Stephen King has come out against this movie, and like, when he's railing about it, he's like, yeah, and like when like she gets ready to use her powers and there's like wind in her hair, it's like, where'd that fucking wind come from? And the director of this movie, Mark L. Lester, basically, he's been on record, and he's like, man, I don't know why Steven's so critical about it. The whole wind in the hair of the girl was his idea when he was on set. and he's like, he must have just been like coked out, so he didn't remember or something.
Probably. Yeah. I thought it was a nice visual representation. And the way I justified that in my head, when I'm watching this and she's like doing the stare down the camera and the camera zooms in and the hair starts blowing, I just assumed like, okay, so whenever there's heat transfer, whenever there's heat put into an environment, the air changes. Hot air rises, cold air sinks. So I just figured like
heat waves.
She's forcing the temperature to go up so much that there's a backlash to her, and it blows her hair up. That's what I was just it works.
There are two things I want to say about the effects in this movie. So first of all, you have to remember this was the 1980s, no CGI. right? Like everything in this movie was done practically. So like when they have fireballs
So
flying,
many explosions.
yeah. When they have fireballs flying, those are real fireballs. When people are on fire, those are actually people who are on fire. Yeah. When stuff's burning down, stuff is actually burning down.
Stunt people are so cool.
Yeah,
they really are.
Crazy.
I love stunt
really
people.
Are.
Yeah, and so like this was Mark Lester has said that basically this is the hardest movie he's ever had to make, simply because of all the dangerous practical effects that they had to do. And it's very easy to kind of forget when you're watching a movie. It's like, well, at some point, people had to actually do this to put it on screen. And before, like we've talked about other 80s movies where like the safety standards were so lax that, you know, actors actually got permanently injured and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's easy to forget in this movie that there are scenes in here that, you know, everything that is fire, like when the cinder blocks melt and stuff like that, they actually had to do that. And it's absolutely crazy. Like you know, like it was, I don't think there was any like blue screen or green screen in this. It was one of those things where like Drew Barrymore stand-in was like separated, like they shot it so it looked closer than it was, but like separated by like a glass that kept the heat and the explosions away and stuff like that. It's absolutely bonkers.
I love practical
I just
effects.
figured it through some like you know, lighter fluid or something on the cinder block and lit it on fire.
Maybe they torched it from the back and lit it on fire. Like you put a torch up on the backside of it and then it melts through. I don't know how they did it, but I loved it.
And there's a second part that goes to this. So like there's a great scene where they're at this farmhouse and all the shop agents kind of show up. So there's an actor in this scene named Drew Snyder, and he's like the head shop agent guy who's like leading the charge to capture the kid and the dad. And when they were getting ready to shoot this scene, the director came up to them and they were like, "Hey, Stanley, like, you know, we'd like to set your arm on fire in this scene." and Stanley's like what? And it's like, well, you know, like there's a scene, you know, like everyone's gonna be set on fire, but we want to do this thing where like your arm catches on fire and stuff like that. And he's like, well, that doesn't sound safe. And they're like, we'll give you an extra $400 if you do it.
$400?
$400.
Yeah, 1980s bucks. And he's like, $400, count me in. And so like, you know, like they do the scene, he gets his arm catch on fire. And then later on, when they were shooting other stuff, he was kind of hanging out with the stuntmen and he was like, "Hey, they gave me $400 to set my arm on fire. Do you think that was a good deal?" And the stuntmen were like, "Dude, no." What are you thinking? They got you cheap, man.
That's funny.
Tell you what, when we do Viking Cop for $500, you can set me on fire. All right, guys, we're gonna
do it for free.
Dude, I totally would, with proper supervision. All right, guys, we're gonna take a quick break and then we're gonna come back. I want to talk about this farmer and his wife because these are the best characters in the movie.
Really?
So stay tuned. It's gonna be a ton of fun.
Commanders,
We'll be right back. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Hey, before we get into the coolest characters in this movie, I wanted to let you guys know that you guys can head over to saltynerd.com/DC and download Dragon Champions. It's a really fun mobile game. We get to collect heroes, upgrade them, and go on war paths and have a lot of fun. We've got two people here who are really freaking good at the game. Is Matt Vader is level 80 and Matthew Kadish is like masterclass level 80. And we have our own guild, which is ran by one of our patrons, JT. If you guys type in Salty in the promo code area, it gives you a little bit of a leg up to reach level 20, which then you can join our guild and jump in and go on raids with us and have a lot of fun. And if you need a leg up and if you need some more help understanding the game, head over to Discord in our Dragon Champions chat room where we share techniques and different ideas on how to upgrade your characters and stuff like that. So it's pretty involved. The developers of the developers of the game really like our show, so we want to return the favor and take people over to their game and play some games. I don't know. It's fun. Check it out. Whatever. Anyway, okay, so dude, this farmer guy is like
pretty cool.
He's my freaking spirit animal.
Got a warrant?
Okay. He's my dude.
Get your ass off my property.
I fucking love this guy. So immediately off the bat, he picks them up. They're hitchhiking. They're trying to get away from the government.
And
He's like,
it's such an 80s thing just to see like a dad and his daughter hitchhiking.
right, yeah. And then he's like, I've always wanted a daughter myself. Come on in, I'll help you out, whatever. And like, he's so nice. And you're like, oh, he's got to be what, like 60 something? He's up there in age, and he's taking these people back to his house, and I'm expecting his mom to be
Come on back, have some lunch, feed the chickens.
I made some pie for you.
Their
Whatever.
names are Irv and Norma Manders.
Dude, compared to him, his wife is freaking smoking hot.
Right?
Like, okay, she's at least 10 years younger than he is, and gorgeous.
Well,
like,
Well, the actors who play these roles, so first of all, it's Art Carney as Irv, and then Louise Fletcher as Norma, who was Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay, now I recognize her.
That evil
But
bitch.
like, I love how like you think this unassuming farmer dude, a little bit of a hillbilly hit kind of guy, you don't expect him to be the most intelligent person in the movie. He's legit
Look,
the most intelligent person in the movie.
country people are smarter.
He
than
calls
you think.
bullshit on these guys
Every
immediately.
time.
Clocks it immediately.
And he's like, hey, honey, why don't you take the daughter out to go feed the chickens? I got to talk to fucking Goober over here.
That was actually one of the best scenes in the movie where basically Irv kind of confronts the dad and he's like, okay, what's going on?
What's going on?
And the dad just says like, okay, here it is.
Yeah.
and like Irv has his own like story of like what he thinks is going on. He's like, it doesn't seem like you have her
Against her will.
Against her will.
Right. You're not kidnapping
Did you
her.
steal her from her mother? It's got to be this, or this.
Yeah.
Is it the cops that's after you? And he just like.
And the dad just spills it. He's like, nope,
He
we
just
did an
confesses.
experiment.
Oh yeah, government
And-
experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Earl is
Okay,
just like,
good,
you
perfect.
sound crazy.
But I believe it.
He doesn't at first, not until Charlie starts raising the temperature
Oh, yeah,
in the
yeah.
farm. Because Charlie comes in, she's like, Daddy, I fed the chickens. And then
She melts the butter on the table.
and she's like, they're coming.
Yeah.
And she like raises the temperature. And Irv is just like, holy shit.
It's real. Okay.
I believe your story.
But I love it when the government comes up to their porch and they're all like,
this
"Want
is
you
my favorite scene.
come with us? We got you guys are just gonna come with us. We're
Wait,
gonna take care of you.
Before
Whatever."
they go outside, Irv is like, all of a sudden, he's like, all right, I believe your story. I will back you up.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my gun. And Charlie goes, you don't need your gun.
You don't need your gun.
That's
Dope.
fucking badass.
Dope.
Yeah.
So freaking cool.
I'll take care of them.
But I love that he goes out there and they're like, "We're gonna take them out. You gotta get off my property. You don't have a warrant. Get the fuck
They're
out of
like,
here."
we don't need a warrant. He's like, you do unless I woke up in Russia.
Unless I woke up in Russia.
Yeah.
Yes, dude, it was so badass. I loved it.
I love it.
It's funny. I think
I didn't wake up in Russia today.
so. I recently purchased a new firearm, and it's because of this scene.
Oh my god.
It was.
What'd you get?
I don't have a shotgun yet.
Oh, you got a rifle?
So no, I got a shotgun.
Okay.
Because I don't have one.
Sweet.
So I got a 12 gauge, and I'm like, oh,
Oh, sick.
I know, right? And I was like, I don't have one of those yet. In this
Pump?
scene, yeah. I was looking for the old World War II trench.
His
trench
name is Horace.
His name is Horace.
I've been wanting
You
to get a new
wanna saw it
shotgun too.
No, I got the 18-inch one, so it's pretty short.
I've been wanting to get one of the pistol grip ones.
I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this on YouTube or not.
Zombie
but-
sweepers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, they're like 150
I know,
bucks.
dude.
They're
They
cheap
cost
as fuck.
Yeah. Dude.
Buy them. Anyway, America.
My birthday's coming up if anyone wants to get me a shotgun.
Anyway, I just really appreciated that scene, and I love like the old school like America type mentality. You're like, get the fucking government off my property. You know, if you don't have any reason to be here, get the hell out of here. I thought that scene was really cool. I love the old man.
You bad government motherfuckers.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
I am a farmer on a farm. You think I give a shit about your shop?
Right? Like, how many people you got? You need more. And then immediately after that is when Drew Barrymore goes full freaking pyrotechnics and like melts everybody. And that I thought was one of the better scenes in the show.
Yeah.
So
This movie's kind of weird because basically the first half of it's like really good. And then the minute that they get captured by the shop, it kind of like screeches to a halt.
it
for
shifts
a while.
gears really hard. Yeah.
And then at the end, when like she goes on her little like massacre, it picks up again. So like about 2/3 of the way through the movie, it gets really slow for a while.
Yeah, because they're just kidnapped.
Yeah, they're just stuck in
Yeah,
a
it's all-
facility.
it's all
and
weird.
Rainbird
They-
is just trying to convince her.
Yeah,
that
they
he's
have
a
to
good
build the
guy.
relationship up.
It's all George C. Scott being real weird.
Yeah, and,
know.
what's funny about George C. Scott is, so like, remember in the 80s, like contact lenses were still glass and like they weren't very refined. And he has this Nick Fury eye, a milky eye, where he had to wear a contact lens to kind of like, like white his eye out basically. And he got an eye infection from that contact
Sure he
lens,
did.
which is why he's wearing an eye patch in the movie.
Oh, is
for
that
some of
why
the
they
scenes.
switched it up?
Yeah, that's exactly why. Because like,
Wow.
he couldn't put the contact lens in because of his eye infection.
I
So-
thought he was just trying to like put the
Yeah.
girl at ease.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, I don't want her to see my fucked up eye.
Well,
I'm just
that's how
gonna
they
eye patch.
framed it.
Yeah.
but-
No, that's cool. Good
That's
for them.
neat. Yeah, clever.
You know what blew my mind? Every time I see Martin Sheen in a movie, I just see Charlie.
You see Charlie
I
Sheen?
see Charlie Sheen.
Is
Is that weird?
I think West
because
Wing.
man, they are so similar.
Speaking of the
It's-
West Wing, how crazy was it that the set for the shop's headquarters was the White House, basically?
Yeah. Was it like the Oval Office was the office that they were sitting in, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty
Just
much.
with different furniture.
I feel like people today forget how cool Charlie Sheen is.
Charlie Sheen?
Charlie. Or
Not Martin. Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen.
Aren't you with
Yeah.
Apocalypse Now?
Yeah, dude. He was
He's in a lot of
a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
He was in some cool
He
shit.
was the shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved him in West Wing.
Yeah.
It's one of the better
He's
shows.
still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he still thinks he's president too.
I mean, and he's
I mean, it's, compared to what we got right now, I wouldn't mind having Martin Sheen.
right.
Give him a shot.
I'd give him a shot. I mean, fuck. Oh.
So I want to talk about a little bit of behind the scenes baseball for this movie, which is that so Mark L. Lester, who made this movie, he eventually went on to direct the Schwarzenegger film Commando.
Mhm.
This movie kind of got him in the door for the producers of that movie, but this film was originally going to be directed by John Carpenter and written by his writing partner Bill Lancaster, who they were working on The Thing
That would have been even better.
right before this. And because of the box office failure of The Thing, the studio fired both of them from the project, but they had already written a script. They were preparing to like shoot this thing and cast it and stuff like that. And I can't help but wonder what this movie would have been like if it had been a John Carpenter film.
Yeah.
Probably
That
a
would
little
have been
better.
so much more like of a horror movie.
Yeah. Which I think is probably the only thing, for me, the only thing that could make this movie better is if they went a little bit darker and made it a little bit creepier.
See, that's the thing. I never got horror movie vibe off of this.
Yeah, I agree.
Not once, ever. I just got government conspiracy, kind of X-File-y kind of vibe.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's not.
For sure.
It's not scary.
No, it's not scary at all. It could be.
I don't know if I could have watched this in 1985 and thought it would have been scary then either.
I'm surprised it's rated R, to tell you the truth.
My
kinda-
parents let me watch it. I was very young.
Yeah. It's not a scary movie at all.
I mean, there are people being burned alive in the movie. I mean,
Yeah.
there is some stuff in there. And like her horse was named Necromancer, which was really weird.
That's pretty
yeah, I thought that was
crazy.
cool. That was
a dope ass name
Horses
for a horse.
always have weird
I would name my
names.
horse Necromancer. Yeah, for
I
sure.
named my baby Necromancer.
Wasn't she like, what does that mean? Oh, it just means fucking wizard or something. Like, no.
Nuh-uh.
So you guys,
I mean, kinda.
you guys know that like the end scene in the stables, where basically Charlie's father's dying and she's sitting there and she's supposed to cry. Drew Barrymore, when they were shooting that scene, was having a really hard time like doing a believable cry, like she wasn't getting tears or anything like that. And the actor who plays the father, David Keith, basically went up to Drew Barrymore's parents and he was like, "Hey, you mind if I give her a spanking?"
What?
And the parents were like, "Why would you do that?" And he's like, "Well, I just think it'd help her cry." And they were like,
Wow.
"Okay." And so like he gave
Not
her
cool.
a spanking before they shot that scene,
What?
so that she was actually crying from the spanking.
No.
That's horrible.
Fuck that.
I don't want to watch this movie anymore. I feel terrible now.
Fuck.
Child abuse.
I mean, they got a great performance.
Fuck
out of her.
David Keith.
Babe,
Get the fuck out of there. No.
I don't have any problem with, giving a kid a spanking when they deserve it, but
you have to be
good
their
Lord.
parent, though.
Good Lord.
For acting?
That's
That
ridiculous.
is ridiculous.
That
Tell her-
just makes
tell her-
me feel icky in
Tell
my
her
stomach.
a dog died or something, or a hamster got
Let's see-
eaten by a cat.
No.
Have her take an acting class.
Yeah.
What'd they do to Natalie Portman? They put lemon juice
Oh
in
my
her eyes or
God,
some shit like
that's
that?
yeah, it's ridiculous. I feel dirty.
Have
now.
her sniff an onion.
Kid actors,
I
man.
don't. I feel
That's
bad now.
fucked up.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Matt. You ruined the movie.
Yeah, thanks for the
Yeah, you
mood
ruined it.
gone.
My
Good
work
job.
here is done.
Good job.
Shit.
Jesus.
I don't even know what to say
I
after
don't want to
that.
know that.
I
That's horrible.
That just costed a star.
Can I cane your kid real quick? I just want to get a really good performance
Yeah.
out of her. All right, wrap it up.
All right, well, fuck. 1-star crap fest.
Really?
No, I'm joking. No, the movie's good, but that's horrible.
That's
That is-
terrible.
I don't know. I enjoyed the heck out of this movie, and I love that I got to see kind of where
The genesis.
the genesis of Stranger Things. Like, I love those connections. Like, when I watched this, I was like, that's freaking cool, man. I finally know where they got all this ideas from. So I love it for that. Easily strong 3.5. Minus a half a star for the spanking
How
of Drew
much?
Barrymore. 3.5, so I'll give it a 3.
3.5.
Yeah, 3. I'm going to give it a 3.
Wow.
X half a star for that shit.
You ruined the movie.
God damn it.
Hey, I didn't spank her.
It was the fucking 80s. Arr. What about you, buddy?
Yeah. as much as I like Drew Barrymore and think she's kind of cool and everything and want to party with her,
She'd drink you under the table, bro.
oh, for sure. Yeah, that'd be fun to do though. I really do think she'd be fun to hang out with, for real, for sure. This movie wasn't scary. I was bored through most of it. I'm gonna give this movie a 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a 2-star movie. It
What
hasn't.
about George C. Scott's ponytail?
No.
His fake.
Half star for Ponytail.
You know, if I was gonna give it a half star for Ponytail, I'm gonna detract a half star for
Him not actually being a Native American
for the needless child beating.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, 2 stars. 2 stars for this. I felt like I was watching a made-for-TV movie.
Oh, okay.
Kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it just didn't.
The cinematography is very bland.
It really
and
didn't do a whole lot
It
for me.
really does look like a 70s movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Martin Sheen was,
So
Martin
2.
Sheen. 2 stars.
2 stars.
Yeah.
Jude.
Yeah.
Well, this was my pick, so obviously I like this movie. I'm very grateful that we could do a Stephen King week. It was really hard to narrow down the Stephen King movies, and these were my top 3. I love this movie. I love Drew Barrymore. I remember vividly as a child, probably Drew Barrymore's age, watching this movie and being like, "That's so cool! I want to be that." This is a movie that made Jude. This is easily 4 Bodies on Fire out of 5.
Wow.
5 out of 5. Okay.
4.
4.
Oh, so I'm sorry. 4 out of 5. Right on.
There are 5 bodies. This one has 4.
It's funny how our scores are so
Different.
Well,
Yeah.
you guys are wrong. That's okay.
fine.
Kadish, final thoughts. Get ready.
You're wrong sometimes.
All right. So this being a first watch for me, I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. I thought it was a very fun, interesting movie for all the reasons that we've stated previously. The cast is really good. I think that the campiness of seeing George C. Scott play a Native American with like a
Terrible.
huge ponytail and an eye patch and him karate chopping people in the face to death was just like it was so campy. It was brilliant. Like I loved it. I still can't get over his hair though. The ponytail is bad, but this is probably actually like one of the more faithful adaptations of Stephen King that we've seen. And I liked how they kind of incorporated the flashbacks into the narrative to kind of like give us the background on this stuff, but keep the movie going forward and stuff like that, at least up until the point where they get captured and where the movie kind of slows to a crawl, unfortunately. But it was a very good movie. I liked seeing young Heather Locklear.
I bet you did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
For the 12 seconds.
Holy
of the
crap.
movie.
yeah. This was her first film, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, it was, and it was just it was an all around good movie. I still would have liked to have seen John Carpenter's version of it, but I think that what we got was actually pretty good. So I'm going to give it a solid 3 fireballs out of 5.
All
Cool.
right.
All right, everybody. That's our discussion for Firestarter. Comment below. What do you think of this movie? If you're a fan of Stranger Things like me, check it out. You'll get a lot of references and stuff like that Stranger Things stole directly from this movie. The nosebleed, the telekinesis, the government conspiracy stuff. It's really cool. I really enjoyed that part. All right, Vader, where can they find you on the socials?
You can find me at MattVader74 on all the socials. Twitter, YouTube, Instagram.
The ones that matter.
The ones that matter. Yeah. I'm
All
out
right.
there.
Jude.
You can find me at I am Jude Juju on TikTok and on Instagram.
All right. And Kadish, where can people get their day ruined by you?
If you want to get your day ruined by a blue check mark, which is what blue check marks are for, you can go to at Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter and Truth Social, and also go to kadishbooks.com to check out my Amazon page. And if you'd be so kind, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcast, leave us a 5-star rating. We're trying to get 200 of those suckers, so every little bit helps.
Right on.
Only one D in Kadish. Autocorrect wants to change it to Kadish.
Kadish. All right, guys. Real quick announcement. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, we also have video now available on Spotify. So we've jumped over to that platform as well. They've opened up video for podcasters like us. So if you use Spotify for music and other stuff like that, or you're watching Joe Rogan or whatever, we're also available there in video format. So if that's your app, head over there, leave us a review. I think you can leave us a review on Spotify now too, right?
I know they can certainly follow us and,
Absolutely.
and you know,
Subscribe and all that
whatever.
cool stuff.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Stay salty.